Hello, hello, hello. I am joined here today with Jacqueline, and we are going to talk all about finding happiness and fulfillment once you understand your self image and who you truly are. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much, Jane, for having me. This is awesome. I can't wait for our conversation. It's going to be amazing.
This is going to be absolutely amazing. So, just so everyone listening, I might call her Jax because that's what I call her. So Jacqueline Francis is a self-image coach, and she helps her clients truly discover their true self so that they can live a fulfilled life that is filled with possibilities. So, I am really excited because in a couple episodes, we've touched on self-image, and I think it's just such an important thing because we all deal with self-image issues, as in self-doubt. We've got limiting beliefs, we have fears, we have negative self-talk, all these different things that come up. So before we dive into this, I'd love for you, Jacqueline, just to share a little bit about your story and how did you get to where you are today towards helping people with their self-image. Why is this so important to you?
Yeah, thank you. And I would have never honestly seen myself doing this type of work. Looking back on my life, I went to school for social work and I wanted to be like a psychologist or something in that realm. And it's funny how it kind of came back just in a different way because I'm helping people. I'm still being able to make some sort of transformation now that I'm XYZ older, looking back at my younger self. But I started living day to day, not really happy with my life, but not really knowing that I wasn't happy, knowing that I wanted more. I was working at a corporate job for a while, and then I got pregnant with my daughter, decided to become a stay-at-home mom. It was just easier for our family. My husband was working his own, like we have it's a company that he started, and I decided to work with him, and it just kind of fell into working together. So that was great because it gave me the freedom to be with the kids and still help him. That was amazing for a while, but there was always this need within me, right? Like I meant for more, but I just didn't know what it was. I look back now and think like there were nights on a Saturday where I'd be like, God, can you just tell me what my purpose is? Like, what am I here to do? And then I'd be like, there's no answer. Like, what is wrong with me? How come like I can't figure this out. Everything seems to be wrong in my life. But was it though? We're so hard on ourselves and we always tend to judge and blame ourselves when things don't go right. So it was a few years later, my husband and I decided to get into real estate investing. And it changed our lives because that's when I discovered personal development. It was definitely a game changer for me because I started to read and listen to all these things about, expanding yourself and holding this positive view on when things may not go right. Because as an entrepreneur, it's not so cut and dry as a job, right? You can go to work and yeah, you may not like people or you may dislike your job, but you still show up and you do it and you go home. There's no real accountability except for the work that you do. But with being an entrepreneur, you are the one in charge of your life and your business and you're running the show. But when things don't go right, you can't just not come into work. How do you navigate that? So personal development was huge. Through personal development, I met my mentor and coach, Hina Khan, fabulous, incredible lady that's changed my life.
And
I
mine.
started, and yours, because that's how we met. Started to follow her, show up at workshops, and then decided to take a coaching program that ultimately led me to where I am right now, which is coaching women and actually just anybody. I wouldn't even just limit it to women, people that are looking to change some of their limiting beliefs and really find the light within themselves by altering their self image, seeing themselves as empowering, as confident, and knowing that they can do more with their lives if they just tap into who they truly are.
Okay, so much juicy things said there. And for anyone hearing this, I mean, some of these things you've heard me speak about already on this podcast. You touched on something really great. And when you were talking about you sitting at home on a Saturday and really questioning, what the heck is my purpose? Like, you're maybe
Yeah.
looking around, you may be thinking, oh, I'm not doing anything, or every Saturday I'm doing the same old thing. Why is
Yeah.
my life not feeling better? Whatever it
Yes.
is that's passing through your mind, I know those have passed through my mind too, and no doubt to some of the listeners. So, as you help your clients to move through this, because it's so easy for us as coaches to say, like, yeah, just like, who do you want to be? Just start
Yeah.
being who you want to be. But it's really so, in your mind, when did things like, start to really shift for you? So you did some personal development, but for someone
Yeah.
listening that might be sitting on their couch right now or sitting at their desk or driving, having these thoughts about their life and unsure about their purpose, what is a way that they can start rediscovering that, I guess?
Yeah, I love that. It starts with sometimes surround who you're surrounded by. I started like diving deep into podcasts. Hannah has her own podcast. So I was listening to that. Then that led me to, because then all of a sudden other people start to show up, right? The energy aligned and then other people showed up. So then I was listening to their podcast. Then I started picking up books because then as I was in a community of people, they would suggest certain things to read. I'd pick up the books, I'd read the books. Then I started questioning myself and what I choose to believe and started to change that by doing things like, who am I truly being? Asking that question, writing out, like, how would I say? There's an exercise of being your future self where you can literally just write down what it is that you are trying to draw into your life and you can be that now. What would your perfect day be like? How would that person show up? What do they eat? How do they dress? What things do they do? What things do they listen to? And as I would do that, I'd sit there and do this exercise and it felt really good about thinking about my life without having any limits to it. And it's the small things that compounded over time. I started to see evidence in my life where I became powerful, where I showed up as confident. Last year, I took a trip entirely by myself, never done that before, never vacationed by myself. It wasn't really by myself, but I went on this vacation by myself, went through the airport, stayed by myself, and it was a big stretch for me. So it's doing things too that are outside of your comfort zone instead of listening to that voice that's like, oh no, you don't need to do that. It's okay. You don't need to go on that trip. We have to fight that sometimes. We have
Mm-hmm.
to take the resistance and say, no, I'm meant for greater things and I am going to do this. Because when we face that fear and we walk through it, we see after that, we are so much more powerful and greater than we believe to be.
Yeah, that's really like great, a lot of guidance on what someone can do. I think as well as I'm all about, being real, keeping it real. And I think in these types of activities that Jax is talking about, it can be challenging because you're going to start identifying how you're not showing up like you want to be. So,
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Jax and I were just talking about this before we hit record. And she said, when things start to happen in your life that you really wanted, when things start to happen, how do you receive that? Like, how are you actually, you know, acting and performing and taking the steps you need to take to carry out those specific, whatever it is that's coming into you? If you're bringing in new clients or good things are happening in your work, are you sabotaging or are
Yeah.
you actually following through? But I think when it comes to really, building your self image, thinking about who you want to be, I think it's important as well to be thinking about, okay, so let's just say you want to be someone that has more confidence
Yeah.
when they are in a meeting, Let's just say that you have more confidence when you're in a meeting or in a room with other people. Maybe that's kind of like something someone's striving for. And
Yes.
then, so you want to start building on that. And then you take a look though at your current situation and what you're doing to maybe nurture that,
Yeah.
or what you're doing to prevent that from happening. Because far too often, I think there's a lot happening in our lives
Yeah.
and we're actually stopping ourselves, but we're not really acknowledging that and realizing that we may need to start kind of behaving differently.
Yeah, like that's a great point because we self-sabotage. So like you said, when things are going really well for us, then all of a sudden we're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I don't know if I want to do this. This feels hard." But then you have to take a moment and be like, "Wow, but didn't I want this? Didn't I ask for this?" But we're so programmed to like the hard and the stress of certain things that we're not looking at the blessing that it's been given to us. That, hey, you know what? Thank you for my life being this way, for X, Y, and Z happening, for this interview and that client meeting and this client meeting. It's like, how can we start to change our perspective when things start to show up that normally we are so accustomed to saying, oh my gosh, this is so hard. um, there's no time for me, or my days are so booked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And talking about self image really is the mental picture that you hold of yourself in your mind. So I get a lot of talk about, well, is the self image what you see in the mirror? Because people don't really understand what self image is because it's not really talked about. I didn't even really know self image was a thing until I started to do the work that I'm doing and get really clear on the message that I'm bringing and how self image has changed my life. Because when we look in the mirror, that is a physical reflection that you see looking back at you. But our self image is built from the thoughts, the ideas we hold of ourselves, the way we think of the world, our successes, our failures, what other people have chosen to believe we are. And we live from this image, all compiled in one. And this image determines our success and our failure in life. And it's such a simple concept because we have set points. Just like your thermostat, when you set it to a certain degree and you open the window or you open the door and then it either, goes up or goes down, the minute you close the door, the set point, the temperature will rise back up to that set point and it will stay there. It won't go above, it won't go beyond, it'll stay there. And just like a temperature gauge, we also have that mechanism within us to bring us back to who we believe we are. So if we've always believed that we're someone that, isn't confident, can't speak up for themselves, well, I've always been shy, then this is how we're living every single day. So if we do something that goes above the set point and we're like, no, I'm going to do a talk, but you're feeling really nervous about it and you're really anxious, after the talk you're just going to be like, oh my gosh, that was the worst experience. I knew I'm not a speaker. I don't know why I took that. And you'll go right back to the set point of you not being confident enough to be that speaker, right? So when they
Mm-hmm.
say you can never outperform your self image, you can never outdo what you think you are about yourself or who you think you are until you start raising that and start believing and seeing yourself as a different person. And honestly, I wouldn't even say different, but you
Mm-hmm.
start choosing to believe something better for your life and for yourself. And that's where it becomes a game changer.
I think that's amazing. And you literally took two things right. It's like you're reading
Oh,
my mind as you were speaking, actually. And that's just such a great way of looking at and describing how we can look at self-image, a perception that we can have a self-image. And really, we think you're so right. We're led to believe like your self-image is really what you see. Like when, you know,
Yeah.
you look, what do you see when you look in the mirror? How many times have we heard like so many people say this, you know,
Yeah.
but it's really the mental picture you have of yourself. And the beautiful thing about that is it's in your mind. You can choose. You're the only one that can choose what you want to
Yeah.
see. If I want to see myself speaking on global stages as big as auditoriums that Taylor Swift would perform in, I
Yes.
can see myself there, right? It's like I have a
Yes.
choice, or I could choose to see myself, you know, behind a TV or behind a computer, you know, whatever it is. So you're exactly right. And this is something for everyone listening. If you're whatever it is that you're fearing right now, you're struggling with right now, remember that you have the power to use your mind to close your eyes and think about who you want to be. But you think about it from the perspective of the feeling you want. If you want to feel
Yeah.
more empowered, if you want to feel more confident, if you want to feel more healthy, more active, more desirable, whatever it is,
Yeah.
close your eyes and imagine like what you would look like if you had that, if you were
Yeah.
confident, if you were empowered. And really it's like naturally you may not just picture yourself in a blank wall, like maybe you do, it's your own imagination, but chances are you're going to imagine yourself doing things that are going to elicit those feelings, right? So if
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I want to feel more empowered, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I do picture myself like in front of a group of women or whatever, right? Like I'll picture myself doing something that feels very empowering for me. And then that's
Yeah.
also going to help us all take, you know, action towards that. Um, so how would you say then? I think it's really important here because, and I love this, you can't outperform your own self-image. So really like there is no limit on yourself. There's no limit
Seriously.
because
No.
your mind, we'll always be growing. I think something that's important to note is, I mean, as much as I don't want to say this, like we will always have self-doubt and fears.
Yeah.
Like we're always going
It's
to.
true.
It's not like one hurdle you get over and you're like, sweet, did it. I'm good. I'm
Done.
feeling
Never
good.
again.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
It's really something that we work with and continue to work with. So how would you say then self-image plays a role in like the results that people are seeing, anyone listening, the results that they have in their life and maybe in your own life? And these results can be good or bad, like
Yeah.
obviously,
Exactly.
because I've been in
Yes.
situations where I'm looking around me in the last 3 years of my business being like, what the fuck? Oh my God, how is this happening to me? How did I attract this? I don't want this. And really, it truly came back to who I believed I could be and how I was showing up, right?
Yeah.
And maybe to everyone else I was showing up in a certain way, but realistically the feelings I felt about myself didn't align to that. So let's talk about how self-image plays like such a important role in the results that we get in our lives.
Yeah, because if you believe that you are X, Y, and Z, good or bad, because there's no difference really except a positive and negative, you will show up that way because that is what you believe. The assumption is that whatever you believe to be true will be your truth. So if you believe that you're not good with giving people directions or you're not good at cooking, everything in your life will prove that you're not good at that. It will show up that way. If you believe that, hey, you know what, I'm an excellent swimmer, well, then every time you swim, you're going to keep proving to yourself that you are the best at that. So, this is why humans have free will. We can choose our thoughts, we can choose what we want to believe about ourselves, good or bad. But what we don't understand is that from childhood, from outside experiences, from other people's experiences, we limit ourselves. We choose to believe the negative about ourselves. And it's, for some people, it's very, very hard to see how good they are at something because then they deflect. Haven't you, you know, been like, oh my God, I love how you showed up today, or I love your shirt. And they'll be like, thank you, but you know what? I got it on sale, or you know, whatever that story is. Like, I've done it. I
I
know I've been
stopped
blessed.
doing it. Still sometimes do, but when people give me compliments on something, I'm now just like, thank you, and receive it. I don't need to follow it
Yes.
up with, oh yeah, but I messed this up, or,
Right?
it's like we always come up with a reason. It's so true with even
Yeah.
like, oh, I love your jacket. Oh, it's so great. I know, but I did get it on special. Like, who cares? Who cares? Looks great.
Or we feel the need to give the other person a compliment back. Like, we must,
Yes.
like, tit for tat. Like, oh, thank you, but you're also really beautiful as well. Like, we just have to receive it, right? Like, I'm telling you something that I'm genuinely feeling about you. Welcome it. Thank you, and that's it, because I'm good. I don't need you to tell me that I'm this, that in return, right? Accept my compliment because it's for you, it's meant for you. And with self-image, when we start to, because I believe we're all born perfect, right? There's no little kid walking around that believes that they're, you know, too shy, or they can't stand up in front of people and make speeches. It's what we put onto kids and to growing adults. It's our experiences that maybe we had this presentation in class, and then, you know, the teacher said something that made us feel really bad. So now we like held on to that, and we never, you know, moved past it. So then we just chose to believe that that's who we are. But we can choose different thoughts. We can choose to be whatever we want. Self-image is something that can be changed. It's not like when you also hear people say, like, oh, well, I'm just, that's the way I am. End of
Not a
story.
morning person.
Yeah,
I
right.
I actually just said in an episode, it's already when this is released, it's already been released for a few weeks, but I said about, and we were talking about beliefs, and I said, I'm not good at math. And it's interesting. Well, let's talk like, okay, plus, minus, addition, that simple multiplication, long division, love it. But then it's like when we get into calculus, all that stuff. But it's true. I had this like very strong beliefs about myself that I wasn't good in math and I wasn't good in accounting. And those words come out so many times that I
Yeah,
just convinced myself I wasn't good at it. And so it
yeah,
made it so much harder. And so
yeah,
it's exactly true. And you bring up a very good point. And this isn't just like what you say if you have children, to your nieces or nephews, to your friends, to anyone in your family. I had a client say to me that from growing up, she was told like she's not the smart one. And
yeah.
so, but it was like almost as a like a playful type thing. Like her
Of
family didn't
course.
mean it in
Like,
a
it's meant to be
malicious way.
funny, like a
Yeah.
joke.
But like her sibling was quote unquote smarter because she was maybe more of an academic and studied something that her family must have deemed as more challenging. So it's interesting when she was applying to schools many years ago, and she and a family member had asked her like, oh, do you like, oh, you are you applying here? And she's like, no, like I'll probably never get in, like I'm not smart. And her
Mm.
aunt was like, yes you are, and don't believe what the family's been saying, like. And so this is an example of, you don't even realize like the tiniest things you say to your family or your kids, like, and you don't even mean it in a
Yeah,
malicious way, but
no.
these things all affect, I mean, pretty much every self-image issue we have, it stems back from something, right? It's
It
coming
does,
from
yeah, it totally
somewhere.
does.
It
And
could be
then we
coming
act in
from,
that image. We act in that
mhm,
assumption of I'm not good enough. Like, she almost did not apply because she had the belief that she's not good enough or not smart enough to apply. Like, how crazy is that? She would never have known what lied ahead for her if
yeah,
she kept that belief.
exactly. So what would you say? Okay, I want to give everyone something to chew on, something to take, I mean, plenty to
Yeah,
chew on this episode, but what they could take away in that, because I feel that, because I've been there time and time again, and many listeners might be feeling this way too, is they are feeling right now that as they look around, they don't have the things that they want. They're
Yeah.
not feeling good about themselves. So a lot of maybe thinking, oh, I thought I would be X by now. I thought I would
Mm.
have this. I'll be happy when type of mindset. So what tip or advice can you give them just to start shifting so that they can work on their self-image, so they can start building a more positive self-image so that they can really find more happiness in their life?
Make the decision that you're going to change. Make the decision. Say to yourself, write it down, say, from today onward, I'm deciding that I'm going to be more confident. I'm going to be whatever that is for you. I'm going to show up in my business. I'm going to do that reel. I'm going to do that video. Write it down, say it to yourselves, read it over a couple of times, get in the energy of, okay, I'm going to be confident. So now you're like, well, no, I'm not though. So what do I do? Write out what a confident person is like to you. If you know any people in your life that are confident, write out some of their characteristics, how they show up. What does it mean to be confident? How does that confident person act? Do they shy away from things? What sort of things do they believe? What sort of things do they reject? What kind of people do they keep in their circle? Start with that. See how that moves your energy. Then every morning, pick one thing and decide to be or do that thing. 1% better is better than doing nothing at all. And that will compound over the weeks, over the months. The key to all of this is to remain persistent. If you really truly desire to be that confident person and walk in the light of the confidence, or again, whatever that is for you, you have to keep going. On days where it doesn't feel like you want to do that, you've made the commitment, you've made the decision to show up. Because I can guarantee you, give it a month, 2 months, whatever that timeline is for you, depending on how much work and desire and emotional impact you put into this, you will wake up and see things change in your life. When it
Oh,
starts, when you start believing in you.
I love it. Preach. I love this. You're right. It is a choice and you have to choose. Just like I'm always saying, happiness is a choice.
Yes.
Who you want to be every single day, you subconsciously wake up and choose to be who you are
Yeah.
showing up as.
Yeah.
And
Doing the
we
same
also think
thing.
like, this is who I am. Like, this is what we
Yeah.
say. This is just who I am.
Yeah. So I
I've
am.
always been like
You
this.
can't change me.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I know. And now there's obviously situations where we're like, okay, now you can't change me. But when you want to truly change for the better, when you know that you want something more for yourself, when you know that you may not even know that you deserve more, but you know that right now is not what you want,
Yeah.
then actively, just like Jack said, choose, make a choice today. You're going to be more confident. You're going to be more active. You're going to focus
Yeah.
more in on your health. You're going to practice personal development, whatever it is, feel empowered, whatever words energize that you want, write it out, write who you want, write what that means to you. That's really important because the meaning of empowered to me is different from what it means to Jax, to you. So write that out and then do the one thing, because we
Yeah.
can think all we want, but when we don't take action, nothing happens. This is so inspiring. You've lit a fire under me because I've definitely been dragging my heels on a couple things, and I know I need to get my butt in gear. So I love just how the universe brings everything to me that I need to hear in the perfect
Yes.
time. Jax, I want to thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you. This is my pleasure. This was amazing.
This has been absolutely amazing. And all of Jack's contacts. So what's the best way? Like, where are you showing up? How can people get in touch with you?
My greatest and most funnest way to get hold of me is through IG. My handle is IEC Jacqueline, and Jane will leave the spelling in the notes. So thank you. That is where you can get a hold of me, DM me, reach out. Let's have a conversation. Let's see where you want to make some changes because I can see it for you, and let me be able to see it for you.
I love that. And your IG is fire. If you want some motivation, and be sure follow Jax. She's incredible, as you just heard. So Jacqueline, I want to thank you again. This has been so amazing. I feel self-image is just such an important piece.
Yeah.
We could talk about this endlessly. So we'll definitely have you back again.
Thank you. This has been great.
Thank you so much.